Hello and welcome back to Fallon Moran Radio. In today's episode, we're going to be going over your values and how you can elicit your own values so that you can better understand how to move forward with business, your life, etc. Let's dive in. So your values are they've been programmed into your subconscious mind from a very early age. A lot of this has to do with your upbringing. And so your values, they are not something you're going to find on Pinterest. I see a lot of people, especially at this time of year, because it's the first month of the year. It's early in January. Everybody's going through their vision boards and they're making their goals for the year. And they oftentimes are approached with the idea of like, oh, well, go on to Pinterest and figure out your values. And the thing is, you can't elicit your values by going onto Pinterest and looking at a Pinterest board because that is conscious. That is from conscious awareness. And the thing that happens is it's like you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't work like that. You know what your values are deep down, especially when it comes to certain situations. So I'm going to give you an example of what happened during my breakthrough day. Okay. I decided to actually go into the realm of health for myself for my breakthrough day. I really wanted to do career and business, but I went into health. And the reason why I went into health was because I kind of also knew that if I went into the realm of business and career for myself, that I would be forcing consciously to come up with some kind of answer for what I was experiencing in my career and in my business. So I chose to go into health because it was something that I am really passionate about. I wanted to get a faster 2K and I want to be a faster racer for crew. And so to me, it seemed like, okay, this is still a very viable thing that I want to do. And I actually do have a block here. So it would be great if I could break through that block. So when we went to elicit my values, I didn't realize how important it was for me to feel like I'm accomplishing something, for me to feel like I'm achieving something. And there's a difference between, and I can tell you right now, between winter training back in 2019, when I had a season that I knew I was going to be going into with a dedicated doubles partner, versus winter training now, where, okay, yes, I have a goal and I have someone that I'm training with, but it's not a dedicated commitment. There's a difference there because that first value also plays in with my second value. My second value is being in service to others. When there's a commitment and there's a dedication made between two people, myself and, someone else, whether it's, my college crewmates or even after college, my master's crewmates, when that commitment exists, what I'm doing is I am saying to them that I am going to show up for them just as much as I show up for myself. And the difference is that back in 2019, that commitment was there. There was a commitment there. That other person was showing up just as much because they also wanted to achieve something and accomplish something for the greater good of the boat, right? Now, fast forward to 2026 winter training, right? I have someone that I'm training with. However, we're not committed to a lineup together. So the idea is that we'll kind of still be in separate boats. We're not going to be in the same lineup. So now it's not just my first value of achievement and accomplishment, right? Because I could go in and I could accomplish something every single day. Now it's also, okay, well, I'm not in service to anybody. So while it does feel good, and don't get me wrong, I do get my workouts in. It feels great to get my workouts in. And it's different commitment wise because I'm not committed to a lineup. So it's not like I'm actually serving anybody other than myself. And so there are days and times where I will hold back and I won't go to the gym. And it makes me feel accomplished because I did something. However, it's not pushing someone else forward as well. And so when I elicited my values, it really came to my attention how important it was to actually be in service to other people. And that's why I'm so adamant about asking every single podcast episode for a rating and review, because I want to know how this is impacting you. I want to understand how this is serving you and what I can also do to better serve you. So when I'm talking about how you can learn to elicit your own values, now this is something where we can go into, okay, I want to think of a specific scenario that's really coming up that's blocking me. And what is it about the scenario that I would really truly like to see come to fruition? And so when you do that, then you can start to see what unfolds as far as what your values are going to be. Again, I'm going to use the health example that I went through for my breakthrough day. My block was like, okay, I haven't reached a 7-minute 2K yet, and I would really like to reach a 7-minute 2K yet. Okay, well, what is driving me to reach that 7-minute 2K? Well, I feel super accomplished because I achieved the thing that I set out to do. Okay, well, what else is pushing me to reach that 7-minute 2K? Well, I feel like I would be a better purpose, like a better server to the boat as a whole. I'm serving other people by being faster because then we can move the boat faster across the finish line. Now you kind of get an understanding. It's similar in a way to the 7 layers deep. However, it's not necessarily asking why. You can ask why. My brain works better with a what question. So when you start to ask questions around that block, then you could start to see what your values are going to start to become. And again, it's not going through Pinterest. And there's a whole slew of values. I'm literally looking at a list of core values. You probably heard me click my mouse. There's so many. There's acceptance, there's control, there's insightful, there's expressive, learning, liberty, logic, clarity, drive, effectiveness, empathy, communication, common sense, humility, passion. Like there's so many. And the only way that you would ever really be able to truly figure out, well, innovation is a core value of mine, is if you go into something that's blocking you and you ask yourself, well, what is it that's causing so much friction here? Well, there's no innovation in this particular idea. And so that's why it's causing so much friction for me. Okay, well, that tells you innovation is a quality, is a value that you truly do have a lot of weight to. Now, there is definitely a difference and a distinction between towards motivators and away motivators. If you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, you probably heard me mention towards motivators and away motivators. Towards motivators are things that we want to move towards inherently. And again, if we're going to apply it to values, it's a value that we want to move towards inherently, versus away motivators, which are motivators we kind of want nothing to do with. However, it would get us out of a pinch type of situation. So I'm going to do an episode. I'm actually going to write it down right now in my Notion template, because I'm looking at my Notion template now, of towards and away motivators. Basically, when we're thinking about these types of motivators and we're applying them to values, we're talking about values that we want to incorporate into what we're doing and values that we maybe don't want to incorporate into what we're doing. So I'll give you an example. Achievement is something that I'm really driven for myself to accomplish. It's having something, especially like the podcast episodes, right? Where it's like ticking and I can see it growing and growing and growing. It makes me motivated to show up more. So it makes me move towards putting out more podcast episodes versus, let's just take finances, for example. Okay. When somebody shows up on my For You page and they're talking about how, oh, if you want to make a $50,000 month, what that does is it kind of like pokes, it's a pain point marketing, right? So it pokes something that is stressful for me and I want to move away from that financial stress, right? So that is an away motivator, financial stress, because even though they're talking about moving towards $50,000 months, that's not how my brain interprets it. And that's why it's really important to understand when you're going to be talking about, especially when you're talking about income goals or revenue goals or making money, oftentimes people's perception is not moving towards money. It's moving away from any kind of financial stress currently. And if people are experiencing financial stress and they're coming across a video that's talking about moving towards a $50,000 month, what you're doing is you're digging it right in the wound. You are not doing that person any bit of good I don't want to call it rubbing it in their face because it's not necessarily it. But what you're doing is you're aggravating something within them, and that creates that short-term rocket fuel, and it doesn't get you, it's not sustainable. It doesn't get you through the atmosphere. It only gets you up to the atmosphere. Then what you do is those rocket boosters fall away from whatever it is, whether it's the Apollo or whatever space mission aircraft we're going to use as the example here. The jet fuel boosters, they fall away. And then what you're left to is, okay, now you have to think of a more sustainable kind of energy that's going to be able to take you to the moon, right? It's not going to be rocket fuel. It's just not. So that's where towards motivators move in. And that is why when we're going through our values and we're listening values, especially in a breakthrough day, it's important to know what you're moving towards and what you're moving away. There are ways, and I would encourage you to tune into the next episode, that you can tell what a towards motivator is and what an away motivator is. And it's whether you're, sentient person, you can feel it, or even when you're asking yourself the question, you'll know because it's something that you want to have in your life or something that you want to move away from in your life. So again, applying these to values, it's a value that you want to incorporate into what you're doing, or it's a value that you want to potentially keep at bay. So let's just say we're going back to that value of innovation, right? Like, let's say that, your scenario, there's something blocking you about how, I don't know, something's going on with Elon Musk. And you're like, oh, well, it's because Elon is super innovative. If something's bothering you about him and it's because he's innovative is something that you want to move away from. And so it's not necessarily a quality that you would want to incorporate into whatever you're doing in terms of value elicitation, or even incorporating if you were, building your business, whatever the case may be. So it's important for you to understand, because when we're talking about values, especially in the scope of building your business, the way that I have come to understand this to be more efficient in terms of building a business is that you build it around your values. Because when you can incorporate what you value, then you will approach your business as being valuable, or even as far as to say is as being valued by others, because you value it yourself, because it follows your values. It almost reminds me of there's a saying that a lot of people have tossed around in the online world for quite a while, which is build your business around your life versus building your life around your business. Because if you were to build your business around your life, then it can work with the flexibility and the intricacies of whatever you have going on. For example, Penelope has tons of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy appointments. If I build my business around having to be on the road to get her to these therapy appointments, or even to her oncology appointments all the time, then it would be very privy of me to build my business in a more passive style way. Because the more passive my business is, the more it's going to do work for me while I am taking her to those therapy sessions. So that might look like a lot of content batching at 10:14 at night, right? Like, that's what I'm doing right now. And that also could look like repurpose.io, taking a piece of content and even syncing my accounts and making sure that it goes across multiple accounts instead of me sitting there twiddling my thumbs in my car trying to get my, TikTok over on YouTube Shorts or on Instagram Reels. Just have the system do it for me. So again, it comes down to your values. What do you want to incorporate and what do you not want to incorporate? I am going to leave you with that. Thank you for tuning in. I am looking forward to seeing how you build your business in alignment with your values. I would encourage you, as I always typically do, to leave a rating and review because that is what helps the podcast grow. And if you have not yet left a rating and review, what are you doing? I don't even care if it's bad. If you have a bad rating and review, I welcome it because I can't tell you how many horrible comments I've gotten on YouTube this week. And it makes me want to keep going. So thank you for your trolly comments. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, thanks. Love you. Bye.